After failing to win over the first 3 targets, he chose to get engaged to Serafina, the paralyzed heiress of the Sterling family. He spent all his points to give her the ability to walk again. But the first thing she did upon recovering was to call off their engagement and give Julian a spectacular seaside wedding. At the wedding, all 4 of his targets were gazing at Julian with expressions of pure adoration. He suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to go home, so he turned and threw himself into the ocean. Yet as his body plunged into the water, 4 figures dove in after him, their faces etched with regret and fear. On the yacht nearby, Serafina in her wedding gown was blissfully kissing Julian over the cheers of the crowd. The system's mechanical voice echoed in his mind. Host's mission failed. You will be forcibly terminated in 15 days. A bitter smile touched his lips. After being reincarnated into this body, the system assigned him 4 targets. If he could get just one of them to reach 100% affection, his real body, which was dying from a terminal illness in his original world, would be cured. For years, he tried his best to win them over, humbling himself completely, but every single time, just as their affection for him was about to max out, Julian would appear and it would all reset to 0. And now his very last target was marrying Julian. With that thought, he resolutely walked to the edge of the deck and plunged into the sea. The ocean enveloped him, and he spread his arms, letting himself sink toward the bottom. Just then, a figure grabbed him and pulled him back toward the surface. Fresh air flooded his lungs, and before he could even process it, a sharp slap struck his face. Did you have to jump into the ocean at Julian's wedding? Are you trying to ruin this for everyone on purpose? He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looking into her disgusted eyes as a familiar ache spread through his chest. His sister, Lyra, was his first target in this world. After this body's parents died, Lyra and he only had each other. When they were in that car crash, he shielded her with his own body without a second thought, ending up in the ICU with ruptured organs. She held him and sobbed, promising that no matter what, she would always protect him from then on. She said they were the only family each other had left in the world. But the day he got out of the hospital, he found her bringing Julian home, announcing he was their new brother. She made Julian move into his room. In every argument between Julian and him, she would invariably side with Julian, calling him petty and small-minded for no reason. The 97 affection points he had spent 8 years accumulating were completely wiped out by Julian in just a single week. After that, Lyra's affection for him plummeted, and she even refused to acknowledge him as her brother to others. Seeing him sitting there motionless on the ground, Lyra pulled a bottle of heart medication from her purse and threw it at him. Are you going to fake another heart attack? Take your pills and get lost. The truth is, he didn't have a heart condition. The chest pains were always a punishment from the system. But Lyra, worried about him, always carried medication just in case. But now he felt nothing but coldness. He grabbed the bottle, poured a large handful of white pills, and stuffed them into his mouth. Lyra froze for a second, then screamed and knocked the pills from his hand. The pills flew from his mouth as she gripped his wrist, her voice trembling. Kaylin, have you lost your mind? I wasn't crazy. I just wanted to go home to say one last goodbye to my real sister, he said. He said nothing, and Lyra shot him a harsh glare as more guests started to gather and watch. She impatiently ordered the security guards to escort him off the yacht. Just as he set foot back on the deck, he heard the click of high heels behind him. A moment later, a sweet voice called out, Kaylin, what are you doing here? Oh my God, you're completely soaked. He turned to look at Serafina, the woman he had almost married. A bitter feeling rising within him. So she did still care about him, right? A bit of warmth returned to his body, which had been chilled by the cold ocean water. He was about to speak when Serafina slapped him hard across the face. Do you think making a pathetic scene like this will make me look at you twice? Don't be ridiculous. You ruined my wedding, and I'm not going to let it slide. With that, she grabbed him by the throat and shoved his upper body over the railing. He felt the suffocating pressure, but didn't struggle in the slightest. He thought it might be better to just die like this, so he closed his eyes, ready to accept his fate. But his calmness seemed to unnerve Serafina. Realizing something was wrong, she stumbled back a step, staring at him in shock. Why aren't you fighting back? Why aren't you saying anything? Do you actually want to die? Would she even believe him if he tried to explain? He had tried to explain so many times before, but she always thought he was just making excuses. It only ever pushed her further toward Julian. He gave a cold smile, his voice laced with a quiet resignation. I've lost everything anyway, so I might as well be dead. Hearing this, Serafina's expression changed instantly. She grabbed his collar, her eyes shimmering with what looked like tears. Your life belongs to me. You don't have permission to die. When Serafina and he first got engaged, her family despised his background and insisted she break it off to be with him. She had endured her family's harsh punishments time and again, beaten until she was covered in bruises, but she never gave in. When he found out, he went to the Sterling estate and took the punishment in her place. As he lay there beaten half to death, she held him in her arms, terrified, and made him promise that he would never ever die without her permission. He looked up at Serafina, but before he could say a word, a petite, cute girl rushed up to him. Isla, his second target. She was also his best friend in this world. She planted her foot on his face and threw a stack of photos at him. Kalen, since you had the nerve to ruin Julian's wedding, I don't need to show you any mercy. The photos showed him leashed and beaten like a dog, held down and straddled, stripped naked with the word worthless carved into his skin. Isla had taken every one of these photos herself, carefully selecting angles that made his face perfectly clear. She did all this simply because he had exposed Julian for cheating in the photography competition, humiliating him publicly. Amid the sounds of mocking laughter, Isla had coldly taken out her camera to capture his humiliation. In a small corner of the camera, an inscription was engraved, Isla and Kalen. It was a gift he had given her. Isla lost her mother when she was young, and her father would bring home a string of different women who took pleasure in tormenting her. They became friends by chance, and he was once beaten so badly he went temporarily blind while protecting her from an older man her father had brought home. To comfort her, he gave her a camera and asked her to capture all the beautiful things in the world for him to see later. Even after his sight returned, she kept up her photography, but later, he noticed that her camera was filled with more and more pictures of Julian. If you don't get on your knees and apologize to Julian, I'll post these photos online. Let's see how you can show your face in public then. When he didn't respond, Isla's voice turned sharp. She roughly grabbed his collar and hauled him to his feet. But he was so weak that he stumbled and fell to his knees with a cry of pain. Serafina frowned and moved to help him, but Isla blocked her way. Miss Sterling, don't let his pathetic act fool you. I made the mistake of trusting him once, and it's because of him that Julian can no longer take photographs. Kalen, you were so desperate to beat Julian for the grand prize that you hired thugs to force him into compromising photos and then framed him for cheating. If I hadn't gotten there in time, Julian might have done something drastic. Hearing this, the look in Serafina's eyes turned to ice. Get out of here. If you disrupt this wedding any further, I'll make you suffer everything Julian went through and then some. He stumbled to his feet, and before Serafina could finish speaking, bolted directly towards the nearby Pacific Coast Highway. A semi-truck was speeding toward him, but just as he closed his eyes and braced for impact, someone shoved him hard out of the way. Serafina dragged her injured leg over to him and yanked him up by the collar. Kalen, who is this little suicide attempt for? Did you really think that would make me feel sorry for you? At the same time, the system's notification chimed. Host, Serafina's affection level is rising. Do you wish to resume the mission? He looked at Serafina, stunned, and saw her telling her assistant to cancel the wedding. She seemed to sense his gaze and looked up, but he calmly looked away. No, I just want to go home now. After a driver took him home, he noticed he had several scrapes caked with a filthy mixture of mud and blood. He was about to clean the wounds with antiseptic when the door was suddenly kicked open. Isla stormed in and kicked him squarely in the stomach. Where did you take Julian? If anything happens to him, I'll make your life a living hell. Serafina and Lyra rushed in right behind her, their faces filled with malice. No wonder you've been putting on all these dramatic acts, Serafina sneered. It was all to cover your tracks. I'm telling you, if anything happened to Julian, I will kill you. But he had no idea where Julian had run off to this time. Their words, however, gave him an idea. Since they all cared so much for Julian, maybe they really would lose their minds over his disappearance, and then they might actually kill him. Seeing his silence, a flash of hatred crossed Serafina's eyes. It looks like you won't talk unless we make you suffer a little. She grabbed a bottle of rubbing alcohol and poured it directly onto his open wounds. The sharp, searing pain made him break out in a cold sweat. He wanted to die, yes, but not by being tortured to death. He struggled desperately, but then something hard, like a wooden plank, struck the back of his head. Blood streamed down his face. He was trembling so hard, he didn't even have the strength to cry out. "Just kill me." Seeing he was still defiant, Serafina approached him, holding a paring knife. The cold tip of the blade hovered less than an inch from his left eye. "Do you think this will make us feel sorry for you? I'll ask you one last time. Where is Julian?" His face was pale, but he tilted his head back and managed a triumphant smirk. "Julian killed him. Threw his body into the bay for the sharks. You all love him so much, don't you? All wanted to marry him. Well, that's never going to happen now. So come on, kill me and get your revenge." Serafina's eyes blazed with fury as she plunged the knife into his chest. He collapsed to the floor, and just as his consciousness began to fade, he heard Julian's voice from outside. "Why is everyone here? I brought back some pastries. Why is there so much blood?" The sudden voice made Serafina's hand flinch, shifting the blade by an inch. He wasn't dead yet. When he woke up in the hospital, his eyes were completely devoid of light. Was he really just supposed to wait to be terminated? In his real world, he still had so much family, so many friends. He wanted to see them one last time. He snuck up to the hospital roof, but looking down at the bustling street below, he ultimately backed away. Just as he turned to leave, he saw someone standing behind him. "Go on, jump. Why aren't you jumping? Are you scared? Or was this just another act?" Isadora's eyes were dripping with scorn. She was his third target, and she had once pursued him relentlessly. She came from a wealthy family, but her parents were old-fashioned and only valued their son. Her parents were determined to marry her off to a middle-aged business partner for her brother's benefit, and when she was about to jump from a building, he was the one who saved her. From that day on, she followed him everywhere like a shadow. Her intense pursuit slowly broke down his defenses. To help her escape the arranged marriage, he traded his multi-million-dollar research patent for her freedom to love who she chose. But that very night, on her way to meet him for their date, she accidentally hit Julian with her car. While she was taking care of Julian, her heart began to stray and she stopped talking about them being together. His mission had failed again. He thought that would be the end of it, but then Isadora caught Julian in bed with another woman, and he somehow managed to blame it all on him. After that, Julian vanished, leaving him to face Isadora's fury alone. For years, she has made his life miserable, even trying to send diseased men and women to his bed. He tried to walk past her, but she grabbed his arm and dragged him to the ledge. Half of his body was dangling over the edge as she held him down, her eyes glinting with a mad hatred. "Someone like you should have died a long time ago. If it wasn't for you, Julian's reputation would never have been ruined, and we wouldn't have been forced apart." Just then, Lyra and the others rushed onto the roof. Seeing what Isadora was doing, a flicker of concern crossed the faces of Lyra and Isla. Seeing that they might be about to defend him, Julian quickly stepped forward. "Isadora, what happened back then is in the past. I don't blame Kalen. Everything he's been doing lately is just a cry for your attention. I get it, Kalen. I don't know what I ever did to make you hate me so much, to make you compete with me for everything, but I'm apologizing to you now. Please, just stop all this. I can't stand seeing them so exhausted because of you." As he spoke, Julian actually bowed to him in apology. While he was still confused, Julian subtly grabbed his hand and threw his weight backward, pulling them both toward the edge. "Julian." As Julian appeared to fall, four voices cried out in unison in a panic. Isadora shoved him away with all her strength. As he was pushed over the ledge, he closed his eyes peacefully. He could finally leave. He just hoped he wouldn't land on anyone innocent. The four of them caught Julian, but he fell from the roof. He felt the weightlessness of the fall, but he didn't die. By the time Isadora and the others got down from the roof, he was being helped off a firefighter's airbag. "We got a call about a jumper here half an hour ago," one of the firefighters said, relieved. "Glad we made it in time." Hearing the firefighter's words, Isadora's gaze turned icy as it landed on him. Julian looked at him with feigned surprise. "Kalen, so you already called the fire department? No wonder you were so brave. I really thought you were trying to kill me by pushing me, but I guess you were just trying to scare me, right? But you know, my eardrums were perforated when you had those guys beat me up years ago. A fall from this height could have made me permanently deaf. Julian's face was a mask of lingering fear and hurt as he looked at Serafina, his eyes welling up. I'm not afraid to die. I just can't bear to leave you. But Kalen loves you so much. I'm sure he would take good care of you even if I were gone. Serafina rushed forward to embrace him tightly, then shot him a look filled with venom. Kalen, if anything had actually happened to Julian, I would never have forgiven you. With that, she lunged forward and kicked his leg. Those legs, atrophied for so many years, were now fully functional, and the force of her kick made his knees give out, sending him to the ground. He looked up at Serafina, who stood protectively in front of Julian with a grim expression. But when he was the one who healed her legs, she had promised to protect him for the rest of his life. Her legs had been paralyzed in a car accident, turning her into an outcast in the Sterling family. When they got engaged, there was a light in her eyes for the first time. She told him he would be the only one she ever loved. But after knowing Julian for only 3 days, she had a change of heart. Serafina took him back to the Sterling mansion. The 4 women stared at him with varying expressions. Serafina pulled out her phone and played a video right in front of him. Kalen, if you hadn't caused that hit and run and left me there, I never would have been paralyzed and ridiculed for all those years. When Julian gave me this video, he begged me not to press charges. He even got on his knees to protect you, and yet you keep trying to hurt him. Isadora, Lyra, and Isla already hated his guts for forcing Julian to leave, and now their glares were like knives. Any trace of sympathy or concern that Lyra and Isla might have had vanished completely. This car belongs to the Anderson family, Serafina said coldly. You should recognize it. Serafina paused the video with a smirk. Even though the license plate was obscured, he recognized the custom decals instantly. It was the car Lyra had given him, but Julian had wheedled it out of him not long after he got it. Lyra did give me that car, he said, but Julian took it before I ever had a chance to drive it. As soon as the words left his mouth, all eyes turned to Julian. His expression had been strange ever since Serafina played the video, and now his face was as white as a sheet. Serafina, it's true. I've driven that car before. That's how I recognized it in the footage. But I swear I wasn't the one driving it that day. Kalen, you must have taken the car out secretly that day, right? He let out a cold laugh and walked over to Lyra, phone in hand. They might not know, but you do. You know it's impossible for me to have driven that car. As if sensing his utter despair, Lyra bit her lip and under the confused stares of the others, slowly nodded. On the day of the accident, Kalen was not the one driving the car. A wave of shocked glances immediately fell upon Julian. Besides him and Lyra, the only other person who could have driven that car was Julian. Julian stared at him silently for a long moment, then suddenly broke into a smile. If Kalen says I was driving, then fine, I was driving. Serafina, even though I wasn't the one who crippled you, I'm willing to atone for it. He ran into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and plunged it into his own leg. For figures blurred past him, and blood went flying. Serafina, Lyra, Isadora, and Isla had all tried to grab the blade with their bare hands. Seeing the deep cuts on their hands, tears streamed down Julian's face. Was it worth hurting yourselves for me? You're the most important people in the world to me. I don't want you to hate me. I'd rather lose my legs than lose your trust. Serafina, I swear I wasn't driving that day. Serafina ignored the gash on her own hand and pulled Julian into a tight embrace. Julian, of course I believe you. Please don't do anything foolish. If anything happened to you, I wouldn't want to live either. Julian's eyes landed on him. But as long as I'm around, Kalen will keep pulling these stunts to get your attention. He's my half-brother after all. I don't want to see him get hurt. Hearing this, Serafina picked the knife up off the floor and walked over to him. You want to die so badly? Fine, I'll help you. But do you have the guts? Everything you do is just to get our attention and make us hate Julian. I can overlook the fact that you're the reason I was paralyzed, but I will not let you hurt Julian again. The knife glinted under the light. He took it without hesitation and aimed it at his own heart. But the moment the tip touched his skin, an invisible force pushed it back. It was the system blocking him. He didn't understand why. So instead, he slashed the blade across his wrist. Blood poured from the wound. Lyra stumbled over to him, her eyes red with panic. She tried to stop the bleeding, but Serafina and Isadora held her back. Lyra, if he really wanted to die, He wouldn't have just cut his wrist, Isadora said. He's just trying to make us feel sorry for him. Isla added with a sneer. I bet if we leave him alone for 5 minutes, he'll run to the hospital himself. After all, this is the guy who calls the fire department before he jumps off a roof. As his vision blurred, he saw a triumphant smirk on Julian's face. Congratulations, host. Lyra's affection level has reached 50%. 500 points. Would you like to exchange them for clear evidence from the accident scene? Yes. And then everything went black. When he opened his eyes again, he was looking at a face filled with worry. It was Lyra. She looked at him with a complicated expression, a mixture of guilt and regret in her eyes. I know you weren't driving that day, she said softly. Of course she knew. She had confiscated his driver's license long ago to stop him from fighting with Julian over the car, and the road to the crash site had a security checkpoint where they checked licenses. There was no way he could have gotten through. But you're the one who framed Julian with that woman to hurt Isadora, ruining his reputation. You owe him for that, so I'm asking you not to expose him now. From now on, you and Julian will both be my brothers. I won't neglect you again. Lyra's affection level has reached 60%. Host, do you wish to reactivate the mission? I can assist you. No. Even the emotionless system was willing to bend the rules for him. Yet not one of the women he had poured his heart out to was willing to believe him. He didn't want to see any of them ever again. He would rather die than continue to sacrifice himself for them. I'm going to expose him, he said, his voice cold. I'm going to ruin him. Lyra's face grew pale, and a pleading look entered her eyes. Why? Mom and Dad are gone. Besides us, Julian is the only family we have left. Are you really going to push him to the brink? Family? If I told you he was the one who killed Mom, would you still call him family? Lyra froze, shaking her head in disbelief. That's impossible. Julian is too kind to do something like that. I know he's Dad's illegitimate son, but that was an accident. He never asked to be born. As Lyra continued to defend him, he sent a video file to her email. He had used his 500 points for the truth about Serafina's accident. This was a bonus gift from the system. The video showed a young Julian sitting with a woman, watching with venomous eyes as their mother played with him and Lyra. I wish she would just die, the young Julian said. Then my mom could be with Dad, and I could be a real Anderson. As their mother anxiously called out their names, he suddenly threw a thick branch at her feet, tripping her and sending her falling into the pond. In addition to the park security footage, there was also a montage of the 5 years of agony he endured alone. She looked up, her face ashen, completely speechless. She knew he had no reason to act when he was alone, which meant all that suffering was real. That was the price for your health. It wasn't a real illness, so no hospital could ever diagnose it. She opened her mouth, her voice raspy as she said his name. Kalen, Julian told me you were a player, that everything you did for me was just part of a mission. He said the system cured my illness, that it cost you nothing, so Why is it that you believe every word he says, but you won't believe a single thing from me? He cut her off with a cold laugh. It's true, I was on a mission. But many of the things I did were because she was my sister and I genuinely wanted to help her. Kalen, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Lyra was sobbing, apologizing to him over and over, but her words meant nothing to him now. He wearily got up and walked to the kitchen, only to find that every sharp object in the house had been removed and bars had been installed on the windows and doors. Did they really think this would be enough to stop him? But just as he had filled the bathtub and was about to submerge himself, Isla burst in and dragged him out. I'm not letting you die until you've paid Julian back for everything you've done. Her face was livid, but the system's voice chimed in his head. Isla's affection level has reached 20%. 200 points available for exchange. One truth video. After redeeming the video, he sent it directly to Isla's phone. As long as he didn't reactivate the mission, he was still doomed to die. So before he left this world, he was going to clear his name. Isla glanced at her phone, annoyed. What is this now? Are you trying to frame Julian again? Aren't you tired of faking all this evidence? But when she played the video, her eyes widened in shock. Her expertise in photography made it easy for her to tell that the video was authentic. The video showed him shielding Isla from her father's blows, while Julian stood nearby with her father's new girlfriend, Linda. Julian was saying to the woman, if you want to control Isla, you have to get rid of Kalen. I have a plan that will make them hate each other forever. Julian had hired some thugs with depraved tastes to humiliate him, but they had mistakenly kidnapped him instead because Isla had run over to give him some photo paper at the exact wrong moment. Isla stared at the screen, her eyes wide with disbelief that Julian could have done such a thing. The video continued, showing a second footage of Julian cheating during the photography competition. Not only that, but it also showed him trying to destroy Isla's portfolio to ruin her chances of getting into a good art school, leaving her at her father's mercy. To protect her entry, he had let Julian's thugs beat him until his bones broke, but he never let go of the USB drive containing her work. Standing beside her, Lyra gasped and covered her mouth. You were injured so badly that time because you were protecting Isla's project? Isla looked at Lyra, stunned. Lyra, I asked you before if Kalen had been hurt, and you told me no. Lyra looked down, ashamed. Kalen made me promise not to tell you. And Julian. Julian said Kalen had been beaten up because he'd done something to betray you, and he begged me to keep it a secret. Isla stumbled back, her eyes filling with tears as she stared at the screen. How could this be? You told me Kalen framed you for cheating, and that when you confronted him, he was the one who beat you up? You said he was just faking his own injuries to trick me. Seeing the guilt in Julian's eyes on the video, Isla turned to him, her expression pained. I'm so sorry, Kalen. He was the one lying to me all along. Julian told me his stepfather used to beat him, that he was always getting bullied. I related to his story, so I wanted to protect him. But I never imagined. You never imagined it was all a fabricated lie. He finished for her, his voice light, but his eyes empty. Isla nodded, tears streaming down her face. Just as she was about to say something else, Isadora glanced at her phone and her expression changed dramatically. Kalen, did you post these photos online? Are you really trying to destroy Julian? The photos of Julian being caught in bed with another woman had been leaked online. In the pictures, the woman's face was obscured by her hair. That was why Isadora had been so convinced that he had hired the woman to frame Julian. In the present, Julian actually fell to his knees before him, sobbing. I know you hate me, Kalen. You can do whatever you want of me, but I'm Serafina's husband now. I can't let my past ruin her reputation. Kalen, what will it take for you to finally leave me alone? Serafina and Isadora rushed to help Julian up, their faces full of pity. Julian, we'll help you prove your innocence. You don't need to beg him for anything. And Kalen, Serafina added, don't forget about that hit and run. All I have to do is make one call, and you'll go to prison. This time, before he could say a word, Lyra and Isla stepped in front of him. Kalen would never do that, Lyra said firmly. I can prove he wasn't driving. I believe Kalen too, Isla added. And I won't let you hurt him. Host, both Lyra's and Isla's affection levels have reached 90%. Are you certain you do not wish to reactivate the mission? No. Do I have enough points left to buy all the remaining truth videos? After receiving the system's confirmation, he immediately made the exchange. Moments later, both Serafina and Isadora received new emails. Isadora opened hers out of curiosity, and her expression instantly soured. That fender bender you staged was brilliant, a woman's voice said from the phone. I hear Isadora is completely devoted to you now. So when are you going to make your move? Don't tell me you've actually fallen for her. The video showed Julian pulling the woman into his arms. How could I? You're the only one I love, he replied. I'm only getting close to her to help you steal her company's secrets so you can finally crush your sister and take over as CEO. I heard she was chasing some guy named Kalen before this. How did you get her to change her mind so fast? Julian scoffed. A woman that desperate for affection is easy prey. I just told her I had lingering injuries from the accident, and she stayed by my side at the hospital. Then I mentioned how Kalen was always targeting me because of her, and she bought it completely. Hearing this, both Lyra's and Isla's faces went pale. They knew Isadora had believed Julian so easily in part because they had backed up his stories. He felt nothing as he met their guilty stares. So what's your plan to get rid of her after you get what you want? The woman asked. There was a hint of jealousy in her voice, and Julian quickly reassured her. That's easy. Her parents are dying to marry her off for business. I'll just arrange for some disgusting old man to take her. Once she's soiled goods, she won't have the nerve to be with me anymore. And then I'll just blame the whole thing on Kalen and walk away clean. The color drained from Isadora's face. Julian saw he was exposed, and opened his mouth to argue. But then the second part of the video started playing. "It was such bad luck that she saw us together," Julian's voice said. "But don't worry. I already told her Kaylin set the whole thing up. She already trusts me completely. If I act heartbroken and leave now, I know she and those other two idiots will make Kaylin's life hell. I'll just come back after the dust settles. It's a good thing they didn't get your face in the photos. Now I can just say you were some random woman Kaylin hired. If they ever found out who you really are, things would get complicated." Isadora's fists clenched, her eyes fixed on Julian with a murderous stare. The whole situation had been suspicious, but she had trusted Julian so completely that she never bothered to look into it. "It's not what it looks like. The video has to be fake, Isadora. I was framed," he started to explain. But then Serafina played the video she had received. The same woman's voice filled the room again. "Before you leave the country, I need you to do one more thing for me. When you get back, I'll marry you. My little sister has been getting a lot of attention lately, and Dad is starting to favor her. She likes to go hiking up in the mountains. She'll be there this weekend. That trail has no cameras and is very isolated. I want you to make sure she's no longer qualified to be the family heir. I don't care how you do it." The camera angle shifted, and the woman's face finally came into view. Seeing the familiar face, Serafina's jaw dropped in disbelief. Sophia. The woman with Julian was her own sister, Sophia Sterling. "I've already run Serafina's car off the road," Julian's voice said in the next clip. "Even if she survives, she'll be crippled for life. Don't worry, they won't trace it back to me. And even if they do, there's already a scapegoat. The car I used was the one Lyra gave to Kaylin." With a trembling hand, Serafina reopened the video she had received days ago, the one from the accident. This time, she could clearly see Julian's face behind the wheel. After he returned to the country, Sophia had been disowned for angering their grandfather, so he had immediately set his sights on Serafina instead. For pairs of furious eyes now stared at Julian, who shook his head, his face deathly pale. "Please, you have to believe me. The videos are fake. It's Kaylin. He's trying to tear us apart. Serafina, how could I ever hurt you?" Just as he was about to argue further, a disheveled figure appeared in the doorway behind him. "That's not what you told me, Julian," Sophia said. "Serafina, Isadora, as much as I hate you both, I can confirm that everything in those videos is true." With Sophia's testimony, the whole truth was out, and his name was finally cleared. And now there was only one day left of his 15-day deadline. The thought of never seeing his real family and friends again brought tears to his eyes. When he suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, the four of them rushed to his side, holding him up. "Kaylin, we're taking you to the hospital. You're going to be okay." Just as he pushed them away, ready to accept his fate, he saw several familiar figures running toward him. It was his real mother, his sister, and his best friend. "Host, new targets have appeared. Do you wish to reactivate the mission?" "Activate," he said with the last of his strength. In the next instant, his vision cleared and all the pain vanished. "Congratulations, host. All 3 targets have reached 100% affection, preparing for return to original world. Kaylin, please wake up. My affection for you is at 100%. I know it is. Why isn't it working? Kaylin, if once isn't enough, we'll try again. I'll give my own life if that's what it takes to bring you back. Kaylin, we promised we'd be best friends forever. You can't break your promise." Hearing those familiar voices, he struggled to open his eyes. "Mom, sis, Liana, I'm back." A month after coming home, his body made a full recovery. At the same time, the system's voice echoed in his head one last time. "Congratulations, host, on completing your mission. I will be departing shortly. As a farewell gift, I leave you with this." A series of images flashed before his eyes. After he died in that world, Lyra sold everything she owned, trying to find a way to bring him back. But in the end, she was left with nothing, and he never returned. Because he was gone, the health he had given her was taken away. Lyra got into another car accident, but this time there was no one to shield her. She could only lie there, feeling the agony of her internal organs rupturing. The chronic pain from her injuries made her wish for death every day. Isla was locked in that dark basement by her father again, clutching the camera he had given her. With him gone, her fate of being beaten by her father and his girlfriends returned. She lived in constant torment, but this time there was no one there to protect her. Without his research, Isadora's company went into a nosedive. To save it, her parents began forcing her on different executives in exchange for investments. The once proud Isadora had fallen from grace into the gutter. She woke up screaming his name from nightmares every night, hoping he would come and save her. As for Serafina, her legs became paralyzed again soon after he was gone. Despite seeing countless specialists, she was told she would never walk again. The shareholders who had supported her all defected to her sister Sophia. Having lost everything, Serafina faced even worse torment than before, sometimes struggling just to find enough food to eat. A few months later, the four of them managed to meet. They captured Julian and locked him in a basement where they subjected him to every single torment he had ever suffered. When Julian was on the verge of death, the four women knelt on the floor, clutching old photos of him and weeping. "Kaylin, I know I was wrong," Lyra choked out. "Please come back. You're the only family I have left." As she spoke, she coughed up dark blood, her breathing growing faint. Isla clutched a paper airplane they had made as kids, her eyes swollen and red. "Kaylin, we were supposed to be friends forever. I broke my promise and I lost you." Every word she spoke sent a bolt of pain through her broken bones, her face growing whiter with the effort. Isadora's body was covered in bruises. No longer useful to her family, she had been thrown out and now sold her body to survive. "Kaylin, the only reason I'm still alive is for the chance to see you one more time. Please, I'm begging you, come back." The engagement ring Serafina and he once shared slipped and fell. She tumbled out of her wheelchair, scrambling desperately across the floor to grab it. "Kaylin, we're still going to get married, right? I'll wait for you forever." Her legs had atrophied to nothing more than skin and bone, a horrifying sight. The images faded. He let out a long sigh and smiled as he walked toward his mom and sister, who were finishing dinner. "Look what I brought. Where's Liana? I thought she'd be here already. She loves Mom's cooking." Just then, he heard skipping footsteps behind him, and Liana walked in, carrying a big cake. "I was getting your birthday cake, of course. This thing was heavy. See, it's your favorite flavor. We didn't forget." Surrounded by laughter, he blew out the candles and made a new wish. He wished for his family and friends to be happy and safe, and for the people from that other world to disappear from his memory forever.